Hi, I'm going to show you how to do the basic bind off while working in the round. This you can use to bind off your projects that are worked in the round and have a for that you don't want to gather. I'm currently working on some fingerless gloves, and for the fingerless gloves I'm going to keep my bind off really tight because I want them to fit nice and secure around my wrists, or my knuckles, I mean. The first pair that I made, I kept my stitches really loose, as you can see here, and they just don't fit like they should. They kind of bunch up. So if you have larger hands, like if you're working on fingerless gloves, these just fit more snug and secure, and I overall like them. But you can adjust your tension. I'm going to be doing it really tight. And you can adjust your tension by how you're going to do your knit stitches. And that'll make it more loose or tight depending on how you do your knit stitches. So if you want a looser fit for something that you're working on, then you'll want to do your knit stitches loose, or you can use E-wrap. But for this one, I'm going to keep it really tight because I want it tight for my around my knuckles. So the first step is to knit pegs 1 and peg 2. And now I'm keeping a bit of a tighter of a tension. I'm going to move stitch on peg 2 to peg 1. I'm going to pull my yarn to keep it tight. And then I'm going to knit over. I'm going to move the stitch that's on now on peg 1 over to peg 2, and now I'm going to knit peg 3. And like I said, I'm keeping my tension pretty tight here. If you wanted to, you could keep it really loose, or you could E-wrap these knit stitches, and that'll help keep it looser too. If you wanted it for larger sized hands, or depending on where it sits. If you're working on like ear warmers, you're not going to want it tight around the head. So I knit peg 3, and then I moved it over to peg 2. And I pull my yarn tight again, and then knit over. And so you can see it's already getting tight. Then I'm going to move that stitch that I just knit over on to peg 3. I'm going to knit peg 4, move over to peg 3, knit over, and then move that to the empty peg that I just created. Pull my yarn tighter. Now if you weren't going to keep it tight, don't pull on your yarn. And you just keep going, knitting the next peg, moving it over one, knitting that stitch over, and then moving it to your empty peg. And you just keep repeating this around the loom, and you want to do this until you have one stitch that remains. And I use this bind off for ear warmers, leg warmers, other projects as well. And it's really easy way to bind off, and you can adjust, how tight it is based off of how you work your knit stitches. Okay, so now I'm here back down, and you want to keep doing this, like I said, till there's one stitch that remains. If you want, you can move it over or not. But so we have one stitch that remains. And the last step is that we're simply going to knit the pig. And then we're going to cut our working yarn. And we want to leave a tail end that we can weave in and secure. So I leave about 6 inches or so, 6 to 8. Now we have a tail end, and we're going to take our item off of our loom, and we're going to want to pull the working yarn through that last stitch and pull tight. And that's how you had the basic bind off. As you can see, it doesn't quite line up here, so when I weave it in, this is where our pig was, I weave it through this way and then down. I know it's kind of hard to see from here, but if you can see, because just of the nature of working in the round, it's not, you got this little bump here where it's not quite exact. I just sort of stitch through that and then stitch through and weave in my ends through down the bottom through some of the stitches, and then I secure it. So that's the basic bind off. And as you can see, this gives you a tighter hole than for my cast on. I did an E-wrap, and that's really loose and flexible, whereas this is a firmer, does not stretch, not as flexible bind off, which, so like for my fingerless gloves here, having the E-wrap cast on that's loose works really good because it's around my arm and I wouldn't want anything too snug. But for the gloves, up on the top here around my knuckles, having it too loose is just not, for me, as comfortable to wear. It feels like they're slipping down and bunching up. So doing it nice and tight works great. I mean, there's a little bit of stretch still. And I just want to mention that I think I measured the other day, and the distance around my knuckles are about 7.5 inches. So, sorry, that's my dogs. So, this will work for most, doing it tight like this will work for most, and you can still move your fingers. Will work for most hands, although if you have larger hands, you'd want to keep it a little bit looser. Or if that was going to be up on the top of my end where that was on top of my arm, I'd want to do a looser version of the bind off. Hope that helps. Thanks for joining me.